Hello guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Simba, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a topic that has been going around Christian circles for many years, and the modern day prophets and apostles who run the modern ministries that have that are all over the world, particularly in Africa. Are teaching people that your poverty is being caused by a spirit. They are saying that if you see yourself in poverty, it is a poverty spirit.
The title of my message tonight is Demolishing the Spirit of Poverty. Demolishing the Spirit of Poverty.
Lift your hand and say, every spirit of poverty,
every spirit of poverty,
every stronghold of poverty,
every stronghold of
in
poverty
my life,
in my life,
in my family,
in my family,
catch fire,
catch fire,
catch fire.
I say in the name of Jesus Christ,
yes, Lord.
your spirit of poverty,
Poverty spirit,
your demon of poverty,
poverty
I
spirit.
come after you right now.
Out!
I say out!
Out!
If you see that in your family there's a spirit of depression, then that tells you there's a poverty spirit hovering around in the family. You see, too, worries. When you see people getting worried so much in the family, whether including yourself, it's an indication of the spirit of poverty that is affecting your foundation.
Poverty is not a money issue. That's right. Poverty is a spiritual issue.
When a poverty spirit attacks a person, they will desire for things which does not solve a generation. The spirit of poverty will make you to be aligned to wrong people. I want to make sure that you are free from that spirit of poverty.
Have you ever wondered where this teaching came from? Because there was a time when this teaching did not exist within the church. And even when you look even in the early church, in the Bible, we have never heard the apostles addressing the spirit of poverty from the saints. Actually, it was the opposite. We have seen that from the early church, they always supported the poor. They have always remembered the poor among them. 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 1 to 3. Paul had to collect an offering that was to support the saints that were in Jerusalem who were living in extreme poverty. And he had to collect it from the Macedonian church. And he says from verse 1, and now, brothers and sisters, we want you to know about the grace that God has given the Macedonian churches. In the midst of a very severe trial, their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity. For I testify that they gave as much as they were able and even beyond their ability, entirely on their own. These people were in extreme poverty, but they gave more than what they were able to do. So, did the apostle not see that these people were in extreme poverty? Did Paul not cast out the spirit of poverty from them? So, do these prophets and apostles of today know more than Paul? So Romans chapter 15 from verse 25 to 26. Paul was about to go to Jerusalem, and he wrote a letter to the Romans announcing his plans to visit them. And he says in verse 25, now, however, I am on my way to Jerusalem in the service of the Lord's people there. For Macedonia and Achaia were pleased to make a contribution for the poor among the Lord's people in Jerusalem. Philippians chapter 4, that's the final one. Paul is writing to the Philippians, thanking them for the gifts that the support that they have been giving to him. And he also talks about his circumstances. Right. He says from verse 10, I rejoice greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstance. From verse 12, he says, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Now, this verse 13 is one of these verses that is always misquoted by people because they think that they can do anything. They can do anything. It's basically misquoted by those who are heading the prosperity gospel. Right. Paul is saying that I can do all this whether in want, in the circumstances of being in need and in circumstances of plenty. He says, I can do all this through Christ who gives me the strength. So we find that the early church had a custom of remembering the poor. They were very considerate about the poor that were among them. And they did not make them feel bad about their situation. They did not condemn them. They did not tell them that you have a poverty spirit. We should cast that spirit out. There was nothing like that. These people had so much care about the well-being of others among them. So we are going to have a look now at some statistics on today's, the modern day nations that we live in. So this is the World Poverty Clock, and until 2030. The United Nations is what is called the Sustainable Development Goal. The goal is to alleviate extreme poverty by 2030. And we have here currently over 590 million people living in extreme poverty. These are people with find it difficult, even with the most basic commodities, food, shelter, and clothing. Okay, guys, let's have a look at some countries. The countries within the white on the World Poverty Clock, the countries that are within the white are below 3%. So these countries have achieved alleviating extreme poverty to below 3%. The countries that are in the yellow, they just came out of the red. And then the countries that are in the green are about to get into the white. And so let's have a look at South Africa here. For example, South Africa has a population of 54.4 million, and the population living in extreme poverty is 13.3 million. This is not good. Their current escape rate is minus 6.2. So they are in the minus. They've got a lot of work to do. And their target escape rate is 136.8 per hour. If we look at Nigeria actually overtook India. Nigeria overtook India. And Nigeria now has the most people living in extreme poverty. So that's 94.7 million. That is astounding. That's almost half of their population of 198.7 million people. So their current escape rate is that's minus 4.3. So they are in the minus They haven't even started getting people out of poverty. Actually, more people are getting into poverty. Their target escape rate is supposed to be 16.2. So 16.2 people are supposed to be coming out of poverty per minute, as you can see there, per minute. This is really astounding, guys. It goes to show that good governance can actually make a difference to people's lives. And this whole idea, this whole foolishness of these prophets saying that, oh, you have a poverty spirit, you have a poverty spirit. What did these guys in Australia do? These guys in the United States and all these guys in other countries who have below 3% in extreme poverty, what did they do? Did they cast out the spirit of poverty? So guys, my question now is, did these countries that came out of extreme poverty, did they cast out the spirit of poverty? What exactly did they do to alleviate extreme poverty? Why is it that it's mostly these African apostles and prophets that are telling people that you have a spirit of poverty? And yet these countries are not producing, they are not like, for example, my country, Zimbabwe, it's got no industry. There is no manufacturing, there's nothing. And then they're telling people who have never been employed, a generation of young people who have never been employed in their life, they are telling them that you have a spirit of poverty. This is not acceptable. It is an abomination before the Lord. It is a mockery to in the face of God. This is it. So what are your experiences in these churches? Have you ever experienced it? Have you ever been told that you have a spirit of poverty, or have you seen this firsthand in church? What is your experience with this, and what do you think about this? Just tell me below, just write your experience below the comments, and let us discuss it. All right, goodbye.